We are live. It's the Revved Up 906 podcast, a Detroit Pistons podcast, to be exact. And I'm Hudson.
And I'm Ryan.
And before we get into today's recap of the Detroit Pistons versus the Miami Heat, I want to welcome you to the 2023-24 NBA season, but most importantly, the Detroit Pistons season. And wow, did we have a great start to the season. I know it was a loss. We'll get into it. But first off, Ryan, how great does it feel for the NBA season and the Pistons season to be back and to be back doing Revved Up recaps? Because I know I'm fired up.
Oh, I'm pumped. I obviously love basketball. Basketball is my number one sport. And so like whenever basketball is back, I'm happy. I mean, granted, I do love football. I do love hockey. Baseball's okay. I do love soccer. I mean, I love every sport, but
We're
like
just sports
it's
guys.
basketball.
Sports guys. Right.
It's basketball. Basketball is back. And it's not just preseason. It's not summer league. It's not US select team, Drew League, whatever. It's the NBA. It's back. Regular season. Let's go.
I know. I'm so fired up. No more teasing of the season. There's no more speculating on what the season might look like. We're in the thick of it. It's back. And it feels so good to have stuff to talk about that's new. And there's so many storylines that are following the Detroit Pistons this season. The return of Cade, Jaden Ivey coming off the bench, the battle for backup center of Marvin Bagley and Jalen Duren. Is Bojan going to get traded? Is Isaiah Livers going to stay healthy? There's so much to follow this NBA season, and we're so happy to be back. As some of you that are watching right now may have noticed, me and Ryan are buffed up. And the reason and the thing that we are going to be doing this season is every Detroit Pistons win, we are going to be buffed up for the recap to celebrate each and every Pistons win. And we are expecting there's going to be more than just 17 wins this season. That's the hopes. But since the Pistons did not win, and we got to get a little serious, got to get into the stats, because that's what the Revved Up Boys are best at. We're going to take the buffs off because the Pistons didn't quite earn it, but I wanted to make sure to wear the buffs in the season opener. I just felt like it was just right to do. So let's get into today's recap of the Detroit Pistons versus the Miami Heat. Tonight's final score was 103-102 in the Miami Heat favor. The Detroit Pistons tonight proved that they are a resilient team. They were down 19 points heading into the fourth quarter, and then they bring it in within one at the end. One of the first things I want to open up discussion about is Cade Cunningham. We saw him get 9 points midway through the first quarter, and then 18 points in 8 of 11 shooting and 3 assists in 16 minutes. And then he finished with 30 points, 3 rebounds, 9 assists, 13 of 27 shooting. So not the most efficient, but Ryan, Cade came back and made an impact right away.
Yeah, the dude balled out. I was sitting there after the first quarter and going like, okay, Cade is back. Second quarter, okay, Cade is back. And then by the end of it, I'm like, Cade is him. He is the guy. I've missed him. I'm so happy that he's back, because like, man, the first 12 games last year, I'm going like, okay, Cade. And then we don't have him for the rest of the year. But now that he's back, I'm thrilled and just I'm ecstatic, really, because you look at this stat line that he had. We also have to take note of the 1 steal and 1 block he had. And then he only had 3 turnovers. That's not bad at all. But the 5 fouls, it is tricky. But I don't care. He had 5 fouls and still ended up with the stat line he had, and he had such a great night out there tonight.
And one thing that's cool about his first half play is that the Pistons heading into halftime scored 47 points, and Cade either scored or assisted 26 of those points. So he showed right away in the first half of this game against the Miami Heat that everything runs through him, and that if the Pistons are going to be successful, he is going to be at the helm. And that was one of the questions that we were a little eerie about when doing previous week episodes. We're like, well, some guys just simply aren't the same when they come back from injury. Yes, the truly great players are able to get injured and then come back and make an impact right away. And we were kind of questioning, okay, what's going to happen with Cade? And then all of a sudden he proves that, hey, I'm still here. I'm a force to be reckoned with. And he is one of the top guys. The broadcast on Bali Sports showed that he's one of the top guys to possibly win most improved player.
Yeah.
And he already is making a strong case for that to happen. And I just want to point out, we talked about hot takes a couple weeks ago for this upcoming season, and we were hoping Cade would average around 25 points. Well, right now he's averaging 30. So I just want to say, I know it's only one game. I know.
Yeah.
But the Miami Heat are a defensive team. And for him to put up 30 and make it look pretty easily, in my opinion, I'm impressed.
Yeah, he definitely put the league on notice after tonight. You had ESPN ranking him 75th on the top 100. Here he is balling out with 30 points, almost a double-double. Yep. The dude, he put on a show. And not only did he put himself on notice, he put the team on notice. Because the Pistons, they were just a whole new beast tonight. You saw Jalen Duren have a great double-double, 17 points, 14 boards, 4 assists, 4 blocks. Like, he only missed 3 shots. Like, he played fantastic. Isaiah Stewart, another double-double, 14 points, 4 boards with the 2 assists. Like, the fact that you had both those 2 guys out there tonight with a double-double and Cade just in the ballpark of a double-double, like, that's pretty darn impressive.
Yeah, and for me, the thing is, they're not just double doubles; they're beefy double doubles. I mean, they were stat sheet stuffers tonight. Really, all the starters made a big impact, and we saw Jalen Duren get 17 points, 14 rebounds, 8 of 11 shooting. If you're a longtime watcher of this podcast, you know I love efficient shooting. Jalen Duren showing that he is going to continue to be an efficient player on the offensive end. And then we saw Isaiah Stewart get 14 points and 14 rebounds on 6 of 11 shooting. So these weren't 3 players that just got double doubles. These were beefy double doubles where they were active, and there wasn't a quarter where these 3 players in Jalen Duren, Cade Cunningham, and Isaiah Stewart didn't make an impact. They were always hustling and showing that, okay, it seems like these 3 guys have improved since last season. And one of the biggest things when watching this game was there just seemed to be a different style of effort from this team. They seemed like a well-coached team already this early in the season. They just seemed like a different Detroit Pistons than we saw last season.
Yeah, like going into tonight, I'm going like they have to be different than last year for sure. There's no way it's the same team. And then even so, like preseason, watching them out there, I'm like, wow, in just 4 games, this team is completely different from where they were last year. And so my hope going into tonight was like, okay, please go like full 100, show me what you got. And like everybody did that tonight. Like Killian's game tonight, I'm not, even though his stat line is like all over the place and he only had 10 points, he missed a lot of shots, honestly. He missed 6 threes. That's not good. But like, I don't care about the stat line. Like what he did tonight, my goodness, it just, you saw the confidence level. It was there. And I'm just excited for what he is going to bring this season. But like the rest of the team, like Marvin Bagley, like these guys played with swagger. They played with confidence out there. And I'm, as much as you could be bummed out that we got the loss, like we lost by 1 point to the Miami Heat, who have been a beast in the Eastern Conference for years now. They always will be, honestly, especially with Spoelstra at the helm. But like the fact that we kept it this close down to the wire against a good Eastern Conference team, this is a whole new Pistons team going forward.
Yeah, I mean, the Miami Heat are a team that just 5 months ago won an Eastern Conference Finals championship. So this is a team that is very used to winning. They know how to compete with every team in today's NBA. And the fact that the Pistons were able to kind of, I wouldn't say necessarily stop the Miami Heat starters, but they were able to slow them down. And one thing that I want to point out and talk about is Asar Thompson. He made his rookie debut today. He only had 4 points, which, you know, you'd like to see him maybe around the double digits, but that's okay. 7 rebounds. He's proving to be a great rebounder. That's one thing I love about him. But then we also saw him get 5 blocks of the Detroit Pistons, total of 13 through 4 quarters. But one thing I want to talk about is when Asar Thompson was on the court in 3.5 quarters, let Jimmy Butler, a seasoned NBA vet, I believe a 5 to 6 time NBA All-Star, to only 14 points. Okay, that's a huge thing to point out. In nearly 4 quarters, a guy in Jimmy Butler who typically averages over 20 points a game, he was Asar Thompson, young Asar Thompson, 20 years old, was able to keep Jimmy Butler to under 15 points in nearly 4 quarters. I love that. We saw Jimmy Butler end with 19, but most of those were scored on Killian, and then I believe there was one on Joe Harris at the end in the stretch of the last 5 minutes. So I'm impressed with Asar Thompson's defensive ability.
Yeah, like I've made note of this, like even with you in conversation over like the last couple preseason games, but then even summer league, like Asar Thompson is not playing like a rookie. He's playing like a seasoned vet, and it's like very impressive to see because not only is he a defensive like monster, but like offensively, he's making these smart plays right before your eyes, and you're going like, okay, there's no way a rookie is making that play, but he's out there making that play. And but tonight on Jimmy Butler, like Jimmy Butler, 6 of 18 from the field. That is not good. Like historically speaking, Jimmy Butler's never played that bad in the last couple of years. And like that's against some good competition because like you have, and this is no disrespect, I'm not throwing shade, but like Jimmy Butler and like Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown in Boston, like they couldn't stop Jimmy Butler. And then you have Asar Thompson, a rookie, who is stopping Jimmy Butler, like of all players. Now, I know it's Jimmy Butler. He's not this offensive juggernaut or whatnot, but he's a hardworking guy, and he puts on a show whenever he's out there. If this was like Asar Thompson locking up like Luka Doncic, which I'm kind of hoping that happens, but if this was Luka Doncic tonight, I'd be going like, okay, this kid has to be rookie of the year and defensive player of the year.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with the SAR. I mean, we're talking about a small forward in Jimmy Butler that is highly sought after for on other teams. I would consider I'm not sure where the NBA ranked him or ESPN rather, where they ranked him in the NBA player rankings, but I would say top 20, top 25. And so maybe even top 15. He could be flirting with that. So for Asar Thompson to prove in his debut, still not quite used to that NBA speed and being able to kind of get within himself and be able to not fall for all his fakes. Jimmy Butler's a very pump fake heavy small forward shooting guard. So the fact that Asar was able to keep his feet planted and stay within himself is very impressive. A lot of people that watch this podcast know that I'm very high on Marcus Sasser. I think this guy is going to be a player, a rookie that could maybe shock the world. And tonight I liked his play. 8 points. We saw 8 points and then in 10 minutes and 3 of 4 from the field and 2 of 3 from the 3-point line. We're talking about a point guard that is trigger happy. He is willing to throw up threes when most rookies are like, I should probably pull this back. Marcus Sasser is willing to be a flamethrower for the Pistons. I like his play style and I like the ballsy play from him. And I think he's going to be a solid point guard off the bench for us.
Yeah, like you talk about ballsy, like dude is a rookie, but not only a rookie, but was taken very late in the first round, like to the point where in most situations, that team would be putting you on a 2-way contract, not a full-time, you're on our team for the whole season. But Marcus Sasser, full contract, is going like, yeah, I'm that guy. I'm going to work my tail off. I'm going to show you what I can do. And he doesn't care who's out there on the court with him. If Cade is out there begging for the ball, I think Marcus Sasser's still going to take that shot, honestly. But that's no discredit to Marcus Sasser and who he is as a player, because I love that about him. But like tonight, for playing 10 minutes and having the stat line he had, only missing one shot, too, like you can't ask for more out of a guy that was taken in the late first round, pretty much borderline second round. Like what he did tonight, I was very impressed. The comment that I made about Asar not playing like a rookie and playing like a vet, I feel like Marcus Sasser played like a vet tonight too. He didn't play like a guy that was inexperienced or the game's moving fast for him. He played with a purpose. He showed everybody like, hey, I should have been taken earlier than 25. Like I should have been picked higher. There's no reason why I shouldn't have. I'm going to prove you why. And he has that chip on his shoulder going forward. And I'm excited to see what he does in the future.
So we talked about the positives of today's matchup against the Miami Heat, but we have to stay true to the stats. We got to talk about some negatives here in the season opener. The Pistons on the game and through 4 quarters had 17 turnovers, and the Miami Heat scored 25 points off of those 17 turnovers. That's really what that's what held the Pistons back this game. I truly believe that, because if they were in the Miami Heat, we have to remember only had 7 turnovers on the game. That's impressive. So say that the Pistons cut 17 and a half, and maybe they're flirting with 9 turnovers or 10 turnovers or 11, whatever it may be. That could be the difference in today's game when you lose by 1. It's frustrating, but we also have to remember this team is still getting their feet underneath them. They played against a vetted team in the Miami Heat. And as a Pistons fan, not an analyzer, as a Pistons fan, when watching this game, the 17 turnovers weren't grueling to watch. The Pistons were able to keep it competitive, but say you can cut that number in half or get 5 less turnovers, 6 less turnovers, this game is a win.
Yeah. What it comes down to is like when you're watching these turnovers happen tonight, or even just looking at the box score and you're looking at the box score going like, oh, 17 turnovers, that's awful. That's kind of like where we left off last year. But if you actually break down the game and actually truly watch it, you're going to see like these turnovers aren't like, dude, what are you doing right now? It's more of like, okay, I see what he was doing. It's not a bad pass. It's just it didn't work out for us. Honestly, it wasn't even that bad. Like these turnovers weren't bad. I mean, yeah, 17 turnovers is a lot compared to the Miami Heat 7. But at the end of the day, like when you're actually watching the game, you saw how hard they were working. And so you can understand how there could be that many turnovers when you're playing up against the Miami Heat, who is a defensive juggernaut, and they're just going to pound you down. So like I can understand 17 turnovers. I really think outside of the turnovers, what the issue was tonight, which you may come to shock, a little bit shocked, but more of a surprise, if anything, is our shooting actually hurt us. We started off the game amazing, 48% from the field. Like you can't deny that. That was probably one of our best shooting halves the last 2 years total combined. But then what hurt us is once we got into that second quarter mixed with third quarter, we started like slowing down our game and trying to ISO. When you have the ball contained in an ISO situation, there's not a lot of movement, and that hurts your field goal percentage realistically, because you're not making that extra pass. You're not hitting that wide open Jalen Duren in the paint or Stu in the paint. Rather, you're just going in an ISO situation, and more often than not, you're going to miss that shot. The ball movement is key going forward, along with obviously the turnovers, but ball movement is key, because like that first quarter proved to not only us as Pistons fans, but like the league in total, like, hey, we're actually solid when we actually play with a purpose. When we don't, and we're steer away from that, and we don't play team basketball, we go and try and do ISOs every single time, that stops the ball movement, and then all of a sudden we're losing the game. That's when we took that dip, is when we went to the ISO rather than just moving the ball. So I really think outside of the turnovers, if we can have our ball movement moving like it did in the first quarter tonight, like we're going to be solid going forward.
What's interesting to me when looking at the turnover statistics, actually 15 of those 17 turnovers came in the first half. So when the Pistons only had 2 turnovers in the second half, that's really what was that helped them rally there in the end. They were able to protect the ball. So, and the Pistons proved last season even that they're a second half team. They showed a lot of that resiliency that last season that they did this season. That's why a lot of us Pistons fans were able to make it through last season, was because they were competitive in a lot of games. It's just at times their youth wasn't able to pull off the games in those late stretches. Another thing that's interesting about today's loss is the Pistons fell in love with the 3-point shot. They were 11 of 32 from the 3-point line tonight. That's tough to see. That is not ideal, but it's something that's going to happen when you have so many shooters as the Pistons do. Joe Harris, Alec Burks, Marcus Sasser, Cade Cunningham, Killian Hayes, and then now you add in Isaiah Stewart shooting the 3-point shot. Isaiah Stewart actually was 2 of 3 from the 3-point line tonight. It's kind of interesting. I'll kind of want to see in these next 10 games or so how Monty Williams kind of goes about the Pistons with their 3-point shooting. Is he going to try to pull them back a little bit and not be so trigger happy? Or is he going to just let them do their thing and certain nights they're going to fall? I'll kind of want to pay attention to that.
Yeah, I feel like he's kind of going to let them do their thing, but also critique them at the same time. I think they're going to make a comment and he's going to make a comment of like, hey, if you're wide open, take that shot. If you have a defender in your face, look for the extra pass. Don't force up shots that you're thinking about. Like you saw Isaiah Stewart there in the late stretches of that fourth quarter have an opportunity to shoot the 3, and he passes it up and dribbles down into the paint and has a hook on Kevin Love. Like, that's not bad, actually. Like, more often than not, when you're in that situation, take that shot and do what like Isaiah Stewart did in that situation.
Right.
But I really think Monty is going to let them just be chill about it. I think he'll have an emphasis on like, hey, look for the extra pass. But otherwise, I think it's more going to be something like that and not necessarily like, hey, what the heck are you guys doing out there?
Right, right. One of the last things I want to mention before we wrap up today's Revved Up recap, it's not something I'm worried about. It's not something I think the Pistons fan base as a whole should be worried about. But something we have to note about today's game is that Jaden Ivey wasn't really relevant in today's game. Jaden Ivey, 4 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists on 1 of 7 shooting, 0 of 2 from the 3-point line. I'm not calling for worry. I'm not calling for, anger or anything like that. It's just something I want to note. I want the fan base to keep an eye on Jaden. He seemed a little out of it. He seemed a little stagnant at times. He was able to get a nice and one play that I was hoping would amount to some momentum. It didn't really. But Jaden Ivey, wasn't quite there tonight.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know what it was exactly. You could possibly say maybe it's his minutes. But truly, you have to remember who you're playing against. It's not like it's just anybody out there. As every single comment that I make on this recap tonight is like the Miami Heat, they are a great team, and I'm gonna keep saying it because they are. They're one of the most hardest working teams out there. And then also like their second units, their third units, guys that are on their bench would be like solid second options for a lot of the teams in the league. They're beasts. And so you saw there in the late stretches of the game, like they were putting a double team on Cade. And that's because they knew like Cade was doing great. When Ivy was out there, you saw his speed, you saw what he was able to do. But I really think what contained him is he still needs to get used to the second unit and being out there with them and those guys. But then also like you have to remember who you're playing against. If this was the Milwaukee Bucks or the Chicago Bulls, I think Jaden Ivey would have been fine. I think he would have had more closer to 12 points than what he ended up with tonight with 4. But you just got to remember who we're playing against. And so based off tonight, I'm not worried because it is the Miami Heat. But if this was like, honestly, if this was who's bad, the Houston Rockets. If this was the Houston Rockets,
Right.
I'd be going like, okay, what is going on with Jaden Ivey? But
Agreed.
because it's the Miami Heat, I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. We're chill. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not worried. I wanted to make sure to mention it though, in case certain viewers, weren't able to tune in to today's game. Just wanted to make sure to mention it because it's just something to keep an eye on, and hopefully we will see as the season goes on, Jaden Ivey's confidence starts to boost up a bit. That's what I would love to see. If I had a message to Jaden, just keep trucking. Don't worry. On to the next game. On to the next game, really. Before you guys leave today's Revved Up recap, I want to make sure to remind you guys to like and subscribe. We are going to be bringing you Revved Up recaps all season long. So make sure to turn on your post notifications so that you are updated whenever we post. And then also make sure to tune into our episodes every Saturday. We would love to see you guys commenting and liking our content. We appreciate you guys so much. And welcome to the NBA 2023-24 season. Enjoy it. Be along for the ride. Make sure to keep tuning in. We thank you guys so much for watching and viewing. To say tonight's final score one more time, it was 103-102 in the Miami Heat's favor. I also want to make sure to shout out Grind Clothing Co. They are our official merch sponsor. You can find polos like the one I'm wearing in today's episode, hats and sweatshirts much like the one Ryan was wearing in today's recap. So make sure to hit the link in our YouTube bio or in the description below. We will see you guys in the next episode. Peace.